Okay, we're live, and rarely do I like tease an interview, but I promoted this because I'm so excited to be talking to Amanda Nelson. We've never met. We just started talking for a few minutes, and I'm a huge fan, and I'm really happy to have you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're one of the people who I really like get very bothered by and annoyed by how much success you've had at this and how well you're doing, because I've been doing this for 15 years and you are killing me and in 1 year. And it's really, really smart and really funny, which are the two qualities that I try. So like you stepped into my lane and destroyed me and others like me. And you shouldn't be responsible for my feelings, but you should answer for your success. It's very smart, very funny. It's my way of both like endearing myself to you, but also being honest. Like I hate how good you are at this. It's very bothersome to me.
Have you tried being a middle-aged mom from the suburbs? Because that seems to be the magic sauce.
That doesn't explain your intelligence and your humor. I don't think that's a middle-aged mom thing.
No. Self-deprecation is a defense mechanism. No, I mean, the real secret is I think that the vast majority of people on social media who consume political content are people like me, are women, and are very anxious right now. That's not like me. I'm not a terribly anxious person, but I saw it after the inauguration, or really after the election, and I spoke directly to that thing. And that's why it has been.
You think the reason why you have gotten such a huge following is not only, let's be honest, you're very smart, you use history, very nuanced, you're pragmatic, you are, I think, hopeful and positive, you are a woman, a middle-aged, there's all those things, but you think it just that resonates specifically like, is your following like mostly middle-aged women?
It's the age spectrum is pretty diverse. It is mostly, I think last time I looked, it was 70% women. Mostly in the US. It depends on the platform. Actually, my following on YouTube is mostly dudes. I don't have any explanation for that. But in like Instagram and TikTok, it is mostly women.
You're on all of these platforms as well as Substack. I've found you, I think, on Threads, where you're also really good. I think it's probably your smallest following, and it's still huge. And you're posting there a lot. I want to talk about what you're doing and what other people are similar are doing. There's a lot of people in the kind of progressive journalism, activism, content, or influencer, I'm not sure which words we want to use necessarily, but all of them know what I mean, that have huge followings, but they're very much about being sensational, being divisive, being histrionic, being all kinds of exaggerated, hyperbolic points of view and content, very divisive, conspiratorial. There's a lot, and I'm just talking about progressives here. You're doing something much more serious, much more nuanced, while also entertaining and funny. And my point here is you're getting more views on one of your videos than major media outlets. What does that mean about where media is? Not only you, but plenty of others.
Well, like mainstream media, yeah, I say that a lot. I say it because sometimes people will say to me that the reason people are critical of Democrats is because the mainstream media tells them to be. And my response to that is usually, who the fuck watches the mainstream media? Nobody. People are critical of the Democrats because they have reasons to be. You're not being brainwashed into it. But I agree. And that was also one of the reasons why I started making content, was as soon as the election was over in November, everything I saw was panic and conspiracies, and the election was stolen, and he's gonna whatever. Like we're Germany 1930, like immediately Germany 1930, and it was so pathetic. It drives me crazy. That's the way that people, especially on the left, just rolled over before. Please, sir, can I have some more? Before the Trump administration had even raised their fucking foot. Like, you haven't even been kicked, and you're already like, no, don't hurt me. It just.
Don't you think that was mostly the whites?
Yes. I don't want to lead with that, but yes. Yes, it was mostly the whites. Because they've never experienced political discomfort before, in general. You know, if you're like a straight white person in this country, this kind of oppression, this kind of explicit oppression is probably a new experience for you. No. So buck up, you know, like have some backbone. And that's I think people wanted to hear that. People wanted to hear yeah, it sucks, and he's authoritarian, and he's going to try to do this, that, and the other thing. But this, this is nothing that like Black people in this country haven't experienced, or Indigenous people in this country haven't experienced. So let's learn some lessons, and let's have some backbone. Let's learn that, like maybe you're going to have to be uncomfortable for a while, and it's fine. You'll be okay. And even if you're not, it's still the right thing to do. So stop being such a whiny little bitch.
Dr. King warned about this in Letter from a Birmingham Jail. He said this exact thing. I reference it all the time. He's more worried about the moderate whites than the Klan member, because we don't want to do, rhetorically and ideologically, we might agree with the movement, but we don't want to do anything that will put us in danger, that will make us have to sacrifice. I mean, our generation, I'm 50, I think you're early 40s, like we haven't made any shared sacrifice, and we certainly don't want to. I mean, my life is good. I got an above ground pool, things are going well. Why would I want to put myself in between an ICE agent and a marginal, somebody who's more vulnerable? And so I think that's something that he talked about. You're the historian. You're really good at referencing that in your very topical, relevant videos. So maybe take it from there if you want.
I mean, that's just true. And it's almost a what's the word? Not a bright point of capitalism. I'm not saying capitalism is great, but the past 50 years, probably the post World War II sort of era of American history, has been pretty good as it's gone along. Like, it's gotten better for most people as it's gone along, to the point that now the things that Americans especially complain about before Trump took office, obviously, are like, in a global context or a historical context, sometimes a little bit silly. We've gotten very, very comfortable. And we're not used to having to fight for things. We're not used to having to fight for our voting rights.
We never have. I don't think most of us never have. Certainly the straight whites, me. I mean, I've never had to fight for anything or sacrifice anything.
No.
In my lifetime.
I mean, the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965, right? And that was the legislation that guaranteed the vote to Black women, who were about the last people in this country who had voting rights protections. So there are Black people in this country who were born at a time when they could not vote because of who they are. That is not really true of any white people. Like, property requirements for white men disappeared a long, long time ago. So you're right. Like, there's just no shared identity. And that's something that I think a mistake the Trump administration continues to make is they're pushing too much too fast. So they're giving middle-class white people who normally would check out of moments like this a shared purpose and a shared thing to push back against. And they're doing it. I mean, look at Minnesota. We just heard today that ICE is being drawn down out of Minnesota because white people in Minnesota said, no, thank you, in a nice Midwestern way. No, thank you. And sacrificed their safety. And two of them sacrificed their lives to stand up to that. And it worked. When white people get pissed off, things change.
That's very true. We've seen that throughout history. One of the best mild takes of yours, or one of the things that you keep repeating, and I think it's so important, I think this is so right, is basically talking about the fact that people need to stop being exasperated and saying that you need to do more. People are doing so much. And I've been involved in this space, activism, journalism, all of it for a long, long time. And one of the things that most frustrates me is when people talk about gun violence. After every horrific gun crime, nothing's ever going to change. Nothing ever changes. The reason why it makes me so mad is because I've worked with every activist group, including specifically Moms Demand, who are out there doing stuff all the time. And things do change at the state level around guns all the time. So when you act like something isn't changing, what you're doing is you're being disrespectful, and you're disregarding the work, the activism, the courage in many ways of a whole bunch of people that are doing the work while you're over here complaining. That's some version of what you say. I've been saying that. When I heard you say that the first time, I was like, this is yes, more of that. You take it from there and give me your version of what you hear.
People want real life to be an Avengers movie. We're in a difficult position right now, or a YA novel, depending on your pop culture demographic you're talking to, where Katniss Everdeen comes in and saves the day and shoots whoever with an arrow and everything's fine. Except at the end of that book, everything was not fine, but nobody wants to talk about that. They really, really want there to be a short-term, TikTokable, easily digestible solution to what's happening right now. And because they've ingested so much Mitch McConnell fucking fan fiction, they think that there's this image that they have in their brain of like, well, when Republicans are in the minority, they can do anything. They disrupt everything. They stop everything from happening. That's not real. That's not real. All the horrible things you remember Mitch McConnell doing, he did when he was the majority leader. And I'm not saying that the Democratic Party is doing every single possible thing they could to fight this administration. I'm not saying that at all. But the idea that like no one's doing anything it's one of the reasons why I started rounding up, like twice a week I do these roundup videos of all the ways that Trump is lost in court or lost in the court of public opinion or whatever, because people fight him constantly. Like
I just got to say, those videos, this week's L's, is that what you call them?
oh yeah,
I hate how good you are at those. Hate it. Hate it. I am outraged by how your little jokes that are legit funny. I'm like, does she write it ahead of fucking unbearably annoying to me how easy you make that look and how good you are. The whole thing, everybody should be watching those because they're super inspiring. They're positive, but just my own insecurity, my own personal point of view, hate it and love it. So
I'm a really good hater. So like that
Okay.
particular lane of content is like, I was born for such a time as this, not to be biblical about it, but like shitting on that guy is so easy. So easy and it's fun and he gives you so much material. It's like,
but it's important. It's an important, like a journalistic, I think, endeavor to keep track of how many losses, because it's not how our brain works. I'm not going to be one of those people. Your amygdala, I can't stand that. But like, we definitely are more affected by negative things than positive things, negative news than positive news. So the Trump's L's for the week, which you do twice a week, there's huge lists of them every week.
People sometimes will be like, these get longer every time. No, they don't. They are exactly 3 minutes. They've always been exactly 3 minutes. Because that is the maximum length you can make a reel on Instagram. If it's longer than 3 minutes, they won't share it out past your own audience. So it is always, I am cramming as much shit, and I leave stuff out every week. So yeah, but the reason why I do those, I mean, it's a hope thing. Like things are happening, people are pushing back, whatever. All of that is true. And I agree with you that it's super disrespectful when people are like, nothing ever happens. No one's stopping him. You're not. Speak for your fucking self, you lazy whatever. But it's a permission structure. I make that content to give people permission. Like, I think especially if you've never been an activist, which the majority of my audience, again, middle class people at home with their kids, going to work, whatever. Like they are not politically engaged. They want to know what to do. They want to know how to start. But they don't want to start with like getting shot in the face by ICE. Like 0 to shot in the face. That's a big ask. But when I do that piece of content, I'm creating a permission structure where the entry is laugh at him, because that's so important. Like authoritarians depend on you taking them seriously. And the idea of taking somebody like Donald Trump seriously is insane to me. But a lot of people do. A lot of people take him very seriously. So giving them permission to laugh at him, that's where people can start. Like it's easier to ask someone to mock an authoritarian than it is to ask them to go get arrested. But if they can find a way to mock them, then eventually they can get to a place where they're willing to go get arrested. So it's, again, like it's funny and I enjoy it and I'm glad that it helps people's mental health. But what I'm really trying to do here is give people a place to enter the slipstream of getting organized.
It's effective as hell. It's so good. Never stop doing it. I mean, I hope you can stop doing it because it'll be over. But
I'll just do dance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's just some of the L's. I mean, sometimes I think a lot of us, I think you feel this way, maybe you don't, feel some comfort in that they're so bad at governing. They're great at sales. They're great at getting ratings. They're great at dividing us, scaring us, making us afraid of everything. But they're not good at actually succeeding with Project 2025. They're great at writing it, but getting it done is hard. And that shouldn't make us rest in any way. But I'll name, I think, Jimmy Kimmel, Don Lemon, tariffs, and picking Minneapolis of all the places. To me, all four of those were such huge losses for them. They were kind of the crown jewel on the strategy. FCC against comedians and people you don't like, speech, then against journalists. And then, of course, the ICE in Minneapolis, the overshot that was. And then the tariffs, which if the Supreme Court doesn't strike down, the Senate just apparently, Republicans seem to be voting against this. Those are kind of four. Do you want to comment on any of those or the overall idea that they are just incompetent and that's a good thing?
Yeah, he's trying to govern mostly by executive order, which does not work. Not only is it not durable, but it's very easy to shut down. Do you remember when he tried to make it illegal to burn the flag?
Right, yeah. You signed an executive order, yeah.
Yeah, via executive order. And the same day, somebody burned a flag on the Capitol Hill grounds, and like nothing has happened to that person. Today, a judge overturned Hegseth's trying to take away Mark Kelly's pension. There has not been a single First Amendment case that the Trump administration has won. Not a single one. They
Really?
just keep losing them because I mean they're ridiculous cases. They're overstepping. Also, jury nullification is a huge thing right now, which I mean, historically speaking, the last time we saw this level of jury nullification was during the Fugitive Slave Act. You know, the Fugitive Slave Act, antebellum South, before the Civil War, was a piece of federal legislation that allowed federal agents to go up to the North and arrest people's neighbors, kidnap people's neighbors off of the street if they suspected them of being escaped slaves, and return them to the South. Whether they were escaped slaves or not was completely irrelevant to the point. But if they were arrested and went to court for, like, you know, escaping enslavement, juries would just refuse to find them guilty. Like, it was just, the juries just wouldn't cooperate. Jury nullification. And that's happening now. Like, the Trump administration cannot indict anyone. They can't get indictments for anyone because juries are just not having it. So I think
back to the point, just it's not only that, back to the point, the reason why they can is because qualified attorneys at the Department of Justice won't do it, because prosecutors can, you know, get a prosecutor, indict a ham sandwich, except for when they can't. And when they can't, prosecutors don't bring the case because they want to win. So in the meantime, he has to appoint like his hall of villain women. I think they're all Judge Judy and Lindsay Halligan and Alina Habit. None of them have ever prosecuted. And so when they go to the grand jury, which is just a bunch of us schmucks, we're like, what are you doing?
Who are you even?
Even why are you here? You have no idea what you're talking about. And it's not working.
He was so much more effective in his first term, which is a ridiculous thing to say, right? But in his first term, he had cabinet members who had experience in their fields. These people, Kristi Noem has no law enforcement experience whatsoever. RFK Jr. has no healthcare experience whatsoever. And then they get in here and they make these idiotic, ridiculous decisions that normal Americans and then the court system are like, no, we're not doing that. Eat sand, you fucking weirdos.
Yeah, all the time. So they keep losing, and you keep pointing to those court losses. I mean, that we find a lot of inspiration and hope. I'm going to be talking to my favorite constitutional law scholar, Eric Siegel of Georgia State, after I talk to you. And I mean, he's pretty negative, gloom and doom. But I mean, you and I think see a lot more hope, at least with the federal courts and how they're deciding. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, even his own appointed judges are ruling against him, and the Supreme Court's in his pocket. I'm not saying that's not real. And of course, even in losing these cases, the time in between the executive order or the dumb thing that he's done and the case being overturned in court, people are harmed. People die in that period. So I'm not downplaying the harm that's happening here. And it is also true that the court system is largely holding. They have an 80% loss rate in court. It's higher for immigration cases. That's insane. Like, for an actual president, for the executive branch, whose entire job is enforcing law, to lose in court 80% of the time is bonkers. And they're not really appealing because, like you said, they don't have anyone who works at the DOJ anymore. Elon Musk came in with his chainsaw and fired everyone. And the people who were left have been quitting in like steady streams. Everyone in Minnesota, like the entire federal court system in Minnesota, quit. And so they're only appealing about 5% of the cases up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is not ruling in large part on the merits in favor of the Trump administration. They're putting in like stays, and we'll hear that later, and they're trying to delay or whatever. But the signals that I see from the Supreme Court, and that I think a lot of people see, like I heard Sky Perriman from Democracy Forward talk about this, the CEO of Democracy Forward. The signals from the Supreme Court are very hesitant, are like, could you not? You know, like, please don't make me. So I'm not saying the Supreme Court's never going to rule in their favor. Of course they will. But they don't bother to appeal a lot of it because they don't have the resources.
Yeah, all really good points. Let me ask you about another major issue, just in terms of, well, everything, the Epstein files. I just got to ask you, how do you keep track of that, Amanda? Like, you're so good at following the news. In another conversation off the air, because it's probably just boring, I'd love to know like what your methods are, but it's so much, the Epstein files. It's really hard to know what happened. And then I think if it's hard for people who follow news and even specifically people who cover that issue, from Tara Palmieri to Julie Brown of the Miami Herald, who I interviewed so many times years ago, like, then it's really hard for the rest of us. So my question is, how do you expect the public to digest what is in those and what we're learning when it's just so much, and those files being put out the way that they were doesn't make it any easier for anyone?
I think we have to give the public a lot of time. Like, there's got to be time between just this dump of 3 million files and people who know what they're talking about sifting through it, because a lot of the Epstein files are like FBI tips. And anyone can call in an FBI tip, right? That doesn't mean that the FBI tip was followed up on or was conclusive or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but you can't expect like a dad at home after come home from work or whatever to go through 3 million files and know any of that. So I think that I try to avoid commenting on it a ton unless I'm talking about something in it that has been verified by somebody who knows better than me, because I'm not an attorney, and I'm not gonna well, I saw whatever this random name in here, so he must be a pedophile. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna let more knowledgeable people do the digging. I'm not a journalist. Also, like, I don't want people to come to me looking for like. Sometimes people ask me things about the Epstein files that are like, when are you gonna go find out if this person was in it? I'm like, never. I'm not the DOJ. I fear. I'm so sorry.
When are you going to do the thing that I want you to do? When are you going to look into and do a video on my thing that I want you to do on my time?
All day, constantly. I only tap on like politicians, people in the Trump administration. Like, I'm doing a video tomorrow about people in the Trump administration who are credibly named in the Epstein files, because I think that matters. And that's like in my lane, but I'm not going to go deeper than that. And I think that we have to wait for like journalists to do that work, and that's going to take some time.
I feel like you don't really do a lot of speculation and predicting either, but I still do want to ask you to do it, and just on this issue alone, like, where this doesn't end anytime soon. I think the Epstein scandal, the Trump Epstein files is what Jimmy Kimmel says we should all call it now, which I think
I mean, he's in it so much, it might as well just be the Trump files at this point. It's kind of ridiculous. I think it's sticking, which I did not know. If you had asked me like 6 months ago if this was going to stick, I don't think I would have said yes. But it is. And it's sticking because they're fucking it up. Like, if Pam Bondi hired some attorneys and complied with the legislation that Congress passed and released the files in the way that was dictated by the law, and then just left it alone, maybe it wouldn't have stuck. I mean, hindsight being what it is, I don't know. But the way that she's doing it in these like drips and drabs, and every couple of weeks we get another 3 million, and they're redacted, but then they're not, and then they're redacted, and then she unredacts some shit, and then like she goes back and deletes a bunch of stuff with Trump's name in it. Like, the way that she's managing it is so amateur hour that it's making it stick. Like, it's an unforced error.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, the more we discover, like, Lutnick lied about how often he met with Epstein, and he lied for no reason. Like, he didn't have to do that.
I will never, ever go to that disgusting man's home again, except for when I bring my family and my nannies.
And my children.
And my kids.
And there's so many connections in the administration that I'm not conspiratorial. I am not a conspiracy theory person. Conspiracy theories are stupid. But even I'm starting to be like, this is weird.
That being said, a lot of people are going crazy thinking that there was cannibalism because of one weird detail that somebody complained about, but there's no corroboration. No. And yet millions of smart people, my daughter reached out to me and asked me about this. I'm like, what? So there is a lot of irresponsible stuff happening and being reported, and people are just pulling whatever thread they want and are very conspiratorial. And for the first time, I feel like over the last year or so, we've seen so many more, intelligent progressives who I always used to say were way less susceptible to conspiracy theories buying them. And I think that's a lot of because of the social media and the ability to make a slick video to make you believe that the moon is made of cheese, like smart people buying this shit. What do you think?
I think that a lot of people on the left have stopped caring about whether conspiracy theories are true or not, because they've seen the right use them to get power with no consequence.
Right.
And so I think that it's a tactic that some people on the left are trying on. Like, all right, fine, we'll take Epstein. Like, it didn't work out. Like, maybe QAnon was right. They just had the wrong party, which is a joke that I have made. I was joking, for the record. And we're just going to take that and run with it and see what juice we can get out of it, which I both understand, because we are all desperate for political power right now in order to stop the harms that are happening. But it's not a line I'm willing to go down. Like, I'm not willing to become that person, or like be in that. I don't want the party to be like that. Like, I want us to retain the what's the word?
The truth. I mean, because I'm glad you say that. I mean, I would never either, because I feel like credibility is everything. It's everything. And once you start saying something happened that didn't. Meaning, I guess the example I've been giving is if someone murdered 10 people, you don't need to lie about 2 more people.
Yeah.
You don't need to make that up. We've got them dead to rights. Like, you don't need to exaggerate it because you lose credibility. And when you lose credibility, we already have a credibility issue with media, with sources. Nobody believes anybody. That's so valuable to me. Your credibility is your reputation. And when you start saying things that aren't true, then everything is lost. The ship is lost. That's the way I see it, at least.
Yeah, I've said that a ton. I mean, especially around like the election conspiracy theories that he stole 2024, which is nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
Yeah, I pushed back on that publicly recently on a show.
You are emotionally coping. You're doing the same thing they did in 2020.
Exactly.
I understand. Cut it out. But it's just not. It's just, we don't want to be those people. Like, I cannot.
But there's a reason we don't want to be that. There's a reason we don't want to be them. There's so many reasons why we don't want to be them. And it's also the reason why I won't let myself become a sadist. While I can't enjoy their suffering. I just can't do it. It looks like you've enjoyed Mitch McConnell's suffering. Do you make certain exceptions?
Yes. Him and Newt Gingrich, I swear to God, bottles of champagne. I was at the Senate yesterday for a thing, and I went to his office, and like, there was nobody in there. I wanted to go in and be like, "Are you dead?" But there was no one in there when I stepped by. But then Elizabeth Booker Houston did. She walked in when the staff was in there, and she asked him. She just asked them and got it on tape, and it was hilarious. But yeah, no, because those two are sadists, and I blame Newt Gingrich for a lot of where we are now. And every day I wake up and he's not dead, I get a little sad.
That's hilarious. Just in a couple minutes we have left, just in terms of the Democrats, you yesterday went to the Senate, and what was this exercise? You were very public about it. Some people think it's like this private thing that content creators, influencers, journalists do. It's something everybody has always done. There's nothing weird about it, except for that Democrats aren't very good at it. Yeah. But what was the exercise? What was the function that you attended, and what did you learn?
The Senate.
Who's your favorite senator? And what does John Ossoff smell like?
Oh my gosh, I didn't sniff him. That seemed weird. I don't know what he smelled like. I'm going to make something up, though. Rain. He smells like rain. I don't know. He's certainly the hottest senator. Like, I don't feel like there's any debate about that. Because he's not a 90-year-old.
I think so. I'm trying to think if there's a hotter. We're doing male senators. And I think he's got to be up there. Tim Kaine? I joke. I'm kidding. Tim Kaine. Anyway, what were you doing?
Yeah, so the Senate Democrats have a communications committee, a strategic communications committee that Cory Booker and Tina Smith out of Minnesota are the co-chairs for. And they put on this content creator summit. So a bunch of content creators went to the Senate. We met with a bunch of senators, created content, got a tour of the Capitol. We had they gave us a lecture of like, and this was on background, so we couldn't film it, but it was like an hour of Senate procedure. Like, y'all get out there and you make content and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Basically, you don't know how the filibuster works. You don't know what, privilege resolutions are. You don't know how bills come to the floor. So it was just a civics lesson, which I eat that shit up. I think I was the only person who had a good time at that part of the event.
Did that seem like condescending to some people? I mean, I'm glad they did that, because so many people, including probably a lot of these people, have no idea how governing works, and they don't want to learn. And it's like politics and governance there's details and nuance and process and compromise and trade-offs, and it's not what you think it is. And I think progressives have done what the right have been doing for years, which is screaming that you better go get this done right now or else. And it's like, that's not how it works. We don't have the numbers.
Nope. I don't know that anybody found it condescending. I think a lot of people found it boring. And like the Q&A after seemed to indicate, but like, why can't we, this is it's just so arcane, especially in the Senate. The rules in the Senate are arcane. They're 18th, 19th century. They very rarely get updated, and senators sit in those seats for 6-year terms. So it's nothing like the House. The House is a fucking clown show. The Senate takes itself very seriously. So that was the whole event. We saw, meeting a bunch of senators and trying to get them to understand how we are different from the press. And how they need to stop talking to us with press releases, and trying to establish some sort of relationship here that's different from like how they go out into the rotunda and talk to whoever from CNN. That's not our job. I'm not here to be a mouthpiece for you. So trying to get them to understand that and come into 2026 because they're not They're not good at it. Meanwhile, the Republicans have a creator studio in their section of the Hart Building on Capitol Hill. So we're just so far behind. The Democrats are so far. And like in their defense, it's because the Democratic Party is interested in governing and the Republican Party is interested in money and chaos and stopping governing because they don't want things to change. They don't want anything to get better. Ted Cruz wants to have a podcast, so they have a studio. Yeah. The Democrats want to pass legislation. So that's been the difference. But we got to catch up.
Yeah, it's completely different baselines in terms of the way that right-wing media functions, and they want to divide us to get votes to win elections, and they only care about winning, not governing, and to get ratings. But I think that there's a lot of progressive creators that also want to get ratings, and you can measure ratings very specifically by how many likes, how many subscribers, how much money you're making, and they are increasingly becoming unreasonable and making demands of politicians at any level of government that are impossible. We could name many of them, and that is bad, right?
I guess it depends on what the demand is. It depends on whether or not you agree with the demand. I mean, I certainly don't want us to get to a position where we have people on the left like Laura Loomer who could, who are influencers who could go to the White House and say 2 things on Twitter and suddenly, Mark Kelly is getting prosecuted or something like that. We should not be in that position. I don't think that that's going to happen, though. I mean, that's possible because Republican politicians are stupid and ours aren't. Like, not to put too fine a point on it, but there's no Democrat who's going to run for president who's going to allow themselves to be that easily pushed around by somebody on Twitter, in my opinion.
My final question to you is about the midterm elections. What are your thoughts about the efforts that are underway to rig them, to cheat, and how we win?
I think we're going to win either way, regardless. And I'm basing that on the results of the special elections. The caveat there, of course, is that special elections and midterm elections are not the same. So turnout will be different. But we are overperforming to such a degree in the special elections that if that is even slightly duplicated in the midterms, no amount of rigging is going to overcome it. So I think the House is certainly going to be won. The Senate is now, again, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said, no way in hell are we going to win the Senate. Now I'm saying, sure, maybe. That's entirely possible, which is wild. Yeah. As far as what they're trying to do to rig it, it's a couple of things. I wrote about this on Substack, but there are 3 basic pillars to voter suppression. I won't get into all of them, but the ones that they're focusing on are taking people off the rolls. That's why they want all this data. That's why they want all the voter rolls from every state, because they're going to start pulling people off the rolls. Right. And if you couple that with the SAVE Act, which is a voter registration bill that they're trying to pass right now, that I don't think is going to make it to the Senate, but that's what they're trying, that requires proof of citizenship to register to vote. If you've been removed from the rolls, you have to go through that process to re-register. So it's taking people off the rolls so they can't vote. And then, the thing in Fulton County, Georgia, where they went down there and had the FBI take some of the old ballots, we'll probably see some of that. We'll probably see claims about whether the election was stolen in blue states, whatever. And then things like military, like the ICE, not military, but federal agents, ICE showing up to the polls. The problem with all of this is that they've showed their cards so early that every state has a chance to prepare for it. So I know for a fact that the Democratic attorneys general in blue states are preparing lawsuits to have ready to go if this sort of stuff starts popping up. And, election day lawsuits are very common and courts are equipped to rule on them within a few hours. So it's not going to be a case where ICE shows up, they get sued and we're waiting 4 days and it's too late or whatever. I think it'll be pretty immediate because judges take elections very seriously.
Everybody should go read that post of yours at Substack. Everybody should be following you everywhere. This week's top follow, according to me, Amanda Nelson, Amanda Mild Takes. I've never done this week's top follow until today, though.
But you've got to be ready to check your registration a lot. Make sure that you are registered to vote and check it. I would check it every week as we get closer. And then be willing to walk people past ICE. I am willing to put my body, but I'm an abortion clinic escort of many years. So I am used to putting my body between a vulnerable person and an insane fucking Republican with a gun. That, I have no problem doing that. But you gotta decide now that you're willing to do it, to walk people past ICE who are scared to go vote.
Why do you're also a mother. Why do you have no problem doing that? Why would you put yourself in that kind of situation?
Because my kids are 15 and they'll be all right. I mean, that's a legitimate, I know sounds like a cold thing to say, but my kids understand they have to live with me. So they understand the moment that we're in and the price that you sometimes have to pay for democracy and the price that people have paid in the past. And I'm not a bitch. I'm not a little bitch. So I don't want them to see me be a little bitch either. Like, I would rather them see me make a big sacrifice and know that I did it in the name of something good and pure and right than have to live with thinking their mom was a coward.
That is awesome. And I fully agree and subscribe to that same idea. Amanda, thank you so much for talking to me today. Keep up the great work. You're doing such really important work in these times. You are the one we've been waiting for. So keep it up. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much. See you later.